Hi everyone, my name is Mr. Rust, and today I'm going to lead you through our inquiry question for what can Ansel Adams photographs tell us about living conditions at Manzanar? We'll start by going over some of the background information and looking at some of the document images you'll be using in your inquiry. The Manzanar War Relocation Center was one of 10 facilities where Japanese Americans were incarcerated by the United States government during World War II. Manzanar was built in a remote desert location on the eastern edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. Manzanar opened in 1942, and its population grew to over 10,000 imprisoned people. The United States government closed Manzanar in November of 1945, about 3 months after the Japanese surrendered in World War II. You'll see Manzanar is located in California, near the border of Nevada. Ansel Adams was an influential photographer and environmental conservationist from San Francisco. Adams' interest in photography started on a trip to Yosemite National Park when he was a teenager, and he went on to take some of the most iconic landscape photographs of the American West in history. Ansel Adams was friends with Manzanar's director, Ralph Merritt, who invited him to photograph the facility in 1943. Adams took hundreds of photographs of the facilities and the people imprisoned there. Today, we're going to look at 5 photographs that Adams took at Manzanar and consider what they can tell us about living conditions at Manzanar. When you consider document A, you'll record your answer in your handout where a space has been provided. What you should answer is the following question. What does each photograph suggest about conditions for the inmates at Manzanar? Cite specific details from the photograph to support your claim. You will do the same for document B, making sure to describe in your writing the exact element of the photograph that informs you about what conditions were like for inmates at Manzanar. Using document C, you'll do the same, recording your answer in the space provided. Label it clearly what elements of the photograph inform you about what life was like for inmates at Manzanar. To help you better record your answers, I'll explain to you one way to consider document D. Document D is a photograph taken from a guard tower. The camp director did not allow Adams to photograph the guard towers or the barbed wire fencing. Some believe that this photograph was Adams' attempt to subtly communicate that there were guard towers. The elevated perspective of this photo implies the existence of a tall perimeter structure, which Adams might have expected viewers to understand was a guard tower. In your answer, you might want to practice writing your response by using a sentence that starts, "The photograph suggests that Adams may have," or you might write, "His choice might indicate he believed." Do the same for document E, noting your interpretation by referencing elements of the photograph that suggest what life was like for the inmates at Manzanar. Next, you'll answer questions 2 and then 3. Question 2 asks you to use the photographs to explain what you think Adams wanted his audience to think about the incarceration of Japanese Americans. You should cite evidence from at least 3 of the documents in your answer to question number 2. And in question number 3, you will answer the question about the title and how it suggests his own view. Question number 4 asks, the opening of the book included the following. The publishing of this book is authorized by the War Relocation Authority, United States Department of the Interior. The photographs and facts of the text have been checked and approved by the project director of Manzanar Relocation Center. You should consider how this quotation affects your understanding of Adams' photographs as evidence of the living conditions at Manzanar. How might the approval of his photographs by the United States government influence the reliability of their perspective and their value as evidence in history? Next, you'll consider the passage from the opening pages of Adams' book about life at Manzanar, in which he quoted Abraham Lincoln. Quote, "As a nation, we began by declaring that all men are created equal. We now practically read it all men are created equal except Negroes. When the know-nothings get control, it will read all men are created equal except Negroes and foreigners and Catholics. When it comes to this, I shall prefer emigrating to some other country where they make no pretense of loving liberty, where despotism can be taken pure and without the base alloy of hypocrisy." This quotation seems to say that Lincoln would prefer a dictatorship that was honest than a dictatorship that pretended to be a land of freedom for all. You should consider the quotation and then answer the following question. Why might Adams have chosen this quote for the beginning of his book? The quotation doesn't speak to Japanese Americans, but instead speaks to Abraham Lincoln's experience in the lead-up to the Civil War. Question number 6 asks, how does Adams' decision to include Lincoln's quote affect how you view the photographs as evidence of living conditions at Manzanar? And finally, question number 7. When evaluating whether a historical photograph is useful as evidence, historians consider various questions, including, when and where was the photograph taken? Who took the photograph? What was their perspective on the events of people being photographed? And how might that have influenced what they chose to shoot? Additionally, you should consider, why was the photograph taken? Does the photographer have an incentive to portray a scene in a particular way? And under what circumstances was the photograph taken? How might these circumstances have limited or enabled what the photographer was able to capture? In your handout, you should answer the following question. Considering the questions above, why might Adams' photographs be useful as evidence of living conditions at Manzanar? Now that you've answered all the questions in the handout, you should write your own answer to the inquiry question on the line pages on the last part of the handout. Your answers to the question, what can Ansel Adams' photographs tell us about living conditions at Manzanar, should use evidence taken from the photographs in your own words. You should write between 2 and 3 paragraphs for your answer. Write your answers on the handout and post your finished draft on the Google Classroom site. Make sure you click Submit on the assignment so that it can be recorded and graded. This has been What Can Ansel Adams' Photographs Tell Us About Living Conditions at Manzanar? It was created with work provided by Reading Like a Historian from the Stanford Education Group at Stanford University, and myself, Mr. Rust, of the Social Studies Department at Leadership Public Schools. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me via email. I'm happy to arrange a video conference or just answer your questions in writing. Good luck!